in the Antilles on the Caribbean islands. Even larger numbers sailed with conquistadors to the Isthmus of Panama, where they were used as beasts of burden, so to speak, carrying things back and forth from the Caribbean to the Pacific coast.
Peoples from what is now southern Chile are being shipped all the way to Peru, for example.
Very early on, the greatest demand for African slavery was in Mexico and Peru, what are today Mexico and Peru. There are millions of people who are transported over time, and we know that the loss of life is tremendous across these voyages.
In many contexts, Africans and Native Americans worked side by side. They worked side by side in Spanish homes. If they were living in the city, they worked side by side on rural estates, whether it's sugar plantation or livestock ranches or farms. As a result, Africans and Native Americans very frequently formed common cause and even formed multi-ethnic families. In fact, many descendants of enslaved Africans learn indigenous languages and form families with indigenous people in Spanish America.
Popular literature has, for centuries, pushed a particular vision of the legend of the conquistadors. One of white European bravery and cunning in the face of a savage, undeveloped New World. But these embellished accounts often fail to mention the other characters who played a role in Spain's empire. Evidence of their involvement offering a fresh perspective on the conquest and colonization of the Americas.
In terms of where conquistadors came from, in terms of their national identity, most obviously they were Spaniards. As Spain came into being and created an empire, conquistadors also could be Portuguese, they could be Italian. And once we get to the New World, conquistadors are also of African descent. They could be free, they could be African slaves that fight and then win their freedom as a result of fighting.
Someone who defies our idea or expectation of what a conquistador looks like would be, for example, Juan Garrido. Juan Garrido was an African man born in the Kingdom of Congo. He was a free man, and he arrived in Hispaniola around 1502 approximately, and he participated in expeditions in Puerto Rico and Cuba as a conquistador. He joined the forces of Cortés and participated in the conquest of Mexico in 1519.
In the wake of the conquest, he acts like many other Spanish conquistadors. He's active in trying to secure special rights and privileges for having served in the conquest.
Juan Garrido is far from the stereotypical conquistador that the average person actually has in mind, but it represents the diversity that we encounter sometimes in these expeditions, in these groups.
We don't know how many conquistadors of African descent there were, because the Spaniards were generally reluctant to give credit to other people. I suspect that because we know why they weren't generally given as much credit as non-Africans were, and because we have examples of specific individuals and their names, I suspect that there were many more than we realized.
Thinking about conquistadors that probably defy our expectations, I think possibly Catalina de Erauso is one of the most interesting characters in the entire colonial period.
She doesn't fight as a woman. She dresses up as a man in Spain and takes passage to the Americas and lives in the Americas for many years as a man. She adopts her brother's name.
She became a soldier. She fought in the Chilean frontier. It came to a point in which she was discovered, even though she was dressed as a man and breaking the laws. Thanks to the fact that she was still a virgin, Catholics put a lot of stock into this at the time. Therefore, she had preserved the most important aspect of her womanhood. So she was actually taken to Spain, where the king gave her permission to actually dress like a man for the rest of her life.
It's a wonderful and complicated story, I think, because she's a conquistador that confounds all our expectations of what a conquistador should be, but at the same time helps us to see how there are certain kinds of roles and this sort of stereotype of just who these Spanish men were and what they had achieved in the Americas.
Conquistadors were about to unlock the full potential of the precious metal held in the depths of the Cerro Rico in Potosi, Bolivia. By 1554, an efficient method of extracting silver had been developed, allowing production across Spanish mines to increase relentlessly year on year. And Cerro Rico held more silver than anywhere else across the New World.
The irony is that in the end, finally the Spanish found the precious metals, but it wasn't gold. The real gold of the New World was silver.
The Spaniards discovered this mountain in the middle of the Andes called Potosi. The city of Potosi became possibly one of the most important places in global history. And it's hard to overemphasize this point. Potosi became, during the late 16th century, possibly the main producer of silver in the world. Potosi was the main mine, but it was not the only one. There were many other mines in the Andes. So mines and mining town became the engine of the entire colonial economy. And it was actually extracted through indigenous labor, forced indigenous labor.
It's understood that perhaps some 8 million people died in the mining of silver. People were compelled to work in the mines for essentially forever. It was in large part this silver that was used to finance the slave trade. To me, it's devastating to think about the ways in which the exploitation of one group was used to finance the exploitation of another. And yet these two twin engines of silver and slavery were really what allowed the Spanish economy to boom in this time period.
At its peak, the mining city established in Potosi was larger than London, Milan, and Seville, playing home to up to 160,000 people, a jumble of Spaniards, indigenous Americans, and African slaves. The city ran off their backs, workers each expected to shift more than a metric ton of ore through the dark, cramped mine shafts to the surface. Every back-breaking day, death hung over the miners, never waiting long to claim its next victim. The work never ceased. Potosi's 22 dams powered 140 mills, which ground down the extracted ore before it was chemically converted into the precious silver.
The coins extracted in mines like Potosi and other mines, both in Mexico and Peru, that silver and those silver pesos became the main currency in many places in the world. And even the English and the French used it because it was a trusted currency. And therefore it became a very important vehicle for global exchange. The priority of the Spanish crown during this time is going to be to organize the entire Spanish system around the protection of the silver fleets.
In the 16th century, you have a massive need for silver and gold, particularly in order to keep armies in the field. Soldiers are very problematic when they don't get paid and when they don't eat. And the Spanish are a predominant military power in Western Europe.
Spanish galleons were loaded with silver and other luxuries of the New World, invigorating the empire's economy and keeping Spanish soldiers marching forward.
The Spanish articulated their transatlantic trade with their colonies in the form of a monopoly. The colonies were only authorized to trade with Spain. 2 fleets were sent annually to the Americas with manufactured goods, and those were to be exchanged by products in the Americas. This obviously did not satisfy colonists because the prices were extraordinarily inflated.
the other kind of crucial thing is in territories as vast as Latin America, it's almost impossible in the age of sail to impose any kind of effective control on trade. So increasingly piracy, contraband, illegal trading are completely ubiquitous in this time. It poses a growing problem because it's only through official trade that the royal authorities get the royal fifth, and that's where a lot of the income and wealth that the crown derives from the New World comes from.
Decades on from Queen Isabella's death, King Philip still wished to fulfill his great-grandmother's dream of finding a swift trade route to Asia. By order of the crown, 5 ships loaded with 500 men, captained by local magistrate Miguel Lopez de Legazpi, set off from Mexico. Their task: locate and acquire a significant share of the lucrative eastern spice trade. It would take Legazpi 93 days on a choppy Pacific Ocean to reach the islands of Asia, where the Spanish would finally establish a colony in Cebu, with Legazpi naming the islands in honor of his king, Philip II. It had taken them over 70 years, but the Philippines were now yet another arm of the empire and an important new base for Spain.
Manila, the city founded by the Spanish, which became the capital, emerged very rapidly as one of the most important ports of trade, linking not only Mexico and the Americas to Asia directly via galleons that would sail back and forth, but also became an important port of trade for overseas trade in Southeast Asia, in the South China Sea, in the Indian Ocean itself. This bullion also provided the opportunity to establish connections with the most lucrative trade in the world, that with China itself.
China could not get enough silver. It became like a silver sink, either directly across the Pacific through these Manila galleons, or indirectly through Europe.
China, with its silks, with its exotic woods, furniture, art pieces, clothing, etc., which were extraordinarily lucrative when they were sold again in Europe, in parts of the Indian Ocean world, but just as much in Acapulco, in other cities of Mexico and the Spanish governing world. In fact, most of the silver that was produced during this era actually ended up on not the European side of the world, but the Asian side of the world. And this is important to the development of China and India as societies, as economies, as polities, turning them into economic powerhouses or strengthening beyond what they already were. One should think of these conquests as creating the world's first genuinely global economy and the world's first genuinely global economic superpowers, besides their political importance, their social importance, and their cultural importance. The conquest and colonization proper for the archipelago of islands known today as the Philippines, in many ways, marks the ending of the period of conquest from the perspective of the Spanish Empire.
Nearly a century had passed since Columbus claimed Hispaniola, the empire whose expansion he had mistakenly initiated, now reaching the peak of its power. But with success came criticism. Spain's enemies flooding Europe with hyperbolic nightmares, propaganda designed to foster fear, vilifying its people and its culture. Meanwhile, a rift was growing between the crown and its New World colonies. The conquistadors' descendants rising to power, ready and willing to fight for their autonomy, finally freeing themselves from the shackles of an archaic monarchy. The king didn't know teetering in the balance.
Realized me loving golf would rub off on them, but it has.
Gotcha.
Yay! But I got another car that I want to take you.
What are we riding with?
I'll be right back.
Okay.
It's very LA, by the way.
I can't wait to see it. What are we riding with?
I'll be right back.
Okay.
It's very LA, by the way.
I can't wait to see it.
Tesla.
The Tesla Model X Plaid goes from 0 to 60 in less than 2 seconds. That's quicker than a McLaren F1. The Plaid, which is a reference to speed from the movie Spaceballs, comes in various models, S, X, and Y. I'm John Cena, and I love cars. Ever since I got my first ride at 14, I've been obsessed with everything about it. There's no cool way to do this. Hey guys, I'm in the car. I've had the privilege of driving them all, from luxury cars to SUVs to sports cars. 30 to 100 miles an hour in a matter of seconds. If it's got 4 wheels, you need to know every single detail about it. I feel like when you run out of the tunnel at WrestleMania. That's how excited I am. The passion I have for cars is matched by the admiration I have for people with grit, drive, and perseverance. And to me, there's nothing better than connecting with someone to find out what fuels their drive to succeed. So join me as I spend time with the most successful celebrities on the planet and talk about what drives them, both on the road and in their home. Get intimate details and some stories you've never heard before, as well as taking a look at their really cool rides. This is What Drives You with John Cena. Today, I'm in Los Angeles to catch up with one of my old WWE rivals, Mike "The Miz" Mizanin. To say The Miz is a legend is an understatement. This guy's won 20 major championships, which includes beating me at WrestleMania 27. Making him one of the most decorated superstars in WWE history. But The Miz first rocketed to fame as a 21-year-old kid on one of the biggest reality series of all time, The Real World. And from there, he's appeared hundreds of times in television and movies. I want to find out how this guy from small-town Tacoma, Ohio, who's married with 2 daughters, became a force of nature in the WWE. And also winning over legions of film and TV fans. It's no wonder his catchphrase is, "I'm The Miz, and I'm
Welcome to Manor Marmons. This is a brand new door, by the way. You're the first person. I'm renovating right now. I don't know if you see all the way back there. I'm renovating right now. You're the first person that's actually knocked on this door.
And this is really Manor Marmons."
Every house that Maurice and I have ever been to, we've named it.
Okay.
So first was Chateau Marmiz.
Okay.
Then it was Castle Marmiz.
Okay.
And now we finally ended up in Manor Marmiz.
This
And
is
so-
a beautiful manor.
Thanks,
and
man.
how long have you guys been here?
3 years.
Is this the favorite place you guys have been?
Castle Marmiz.
Okay.
And
It's really Manor Marmiz.
every house that Maurice and I have ever been to, we've named it.
Okay.
So first was Chateau Marmiz.
Okay.
Then it was Castle Marmiz.
Okay.
And now we finally ended up in Manor Marmiz.
This
And
is
so-
a beautiful manor.
Thanks,
and
man.
how long have you guys been here?
3 years.
Is this the favorite place you guys have rested your head?
So, who are you talking to? Are you talking to Mike in his 20s? Or are you talking to Mike in his 40s?
All right, Mike in his 20s.
Okay.
What's the favorite place?
Chateau Marmez, because it was on Laurel Canyon right above Sunset Boulevard. There was no better place than to be right in the heart of Hollywood in your 20s. Everyone was going out, everyone was having fun. It was a blast.
So what's different about 40-year-olds?
40-year-old Miz wants to hang out with his kids and go to gymnastics, go to dance, go to soccer practice. You should see me at soccer practice. I'll be like, come on, let's go. You got this. Let's go, Monroe. Come on. And they have no idea. They're just kicking the ball around. They're just going all over the place. And it's like so weird, right?
I want to talk more about that. We gotta go for a ride.
You want to go for a ride? So we got the G-Wagon. I love this car. If you look at it, it's awesome.
You're a man who uses the word awesome. Why is this car awesome?
I like a car that literally when you're driving it, people will go, oh man, you know? So this one is the last gas powered.
Yes. And a very nice performance package, V8 bi-turbo, so when you mash the gas, it goes.
I don't even care.
I see two choices in front of me. Please tell me that we're not...
I mean, you don't want to take my golf cart? Put little awesome stickers on it.
That makes it faster, from what I've heard.
Yeah, I put my golf bag on here sometimes when we go golfing. The girls love driving in it, and I teach them golf. I didn't realize me loving golf would rub off on them, but it has.
Gotcha.
Yay! But I got another car that I want to take you in.
What are we riding with?
I'll be right back.
Okay.
It's very LA, by the way.
I can't wait to see it. What are we riding with?
I'll be right back.
Okay.
It's very LA, by the way.